This lesson will help you develop the test-taking skills you need to score well on the ACT exam. In this lesson, we will discuss question qualifiers. Just like qualifying rounds at a tournament limit the field for the finals, qualifying words limit the possible correct answers on a test question. Now let's examine how to handle questions when they contain words such as except or not, and least, most, or best. Some of the best students I've ever taught have struggled to correctly answer test questions when they contain certain words and phrases, like which of the following is not, or all of the following are correct except, or which of the following is least acceptable, or best describes. First, before we discuss a strategy for dealing with these types of questions, let's understand why they are included in tests like the ACT. A standardized test, like any good test, is designed to determine who really knows their stuff, to separate the men from the boys and the women from the girls, so to speak. Therefore, questions on the ACT are designed not with one simple right answer that almost anyone with a passing knowledge of the subject can find, but with a variety of answer choices that range from completely or mostly wrong to acceptable to best. If you read the directions carefully, you will always see that the ACT test asks you to choose the best answer and not simply the correct one. Therefore, you must read all the choices before making a selection. And this is yet another reason to use the process of elimination when dealing with more challenging questions. Okay, so what does this have to do with question qualifiers like except, not, least, and best? Well, first, it's important to understand that not every question, few in fact, have only one correct choice. Therefore, when you see a question with a qualifier included, you know you are being asked to find the choice that best answers the question. So while you may find something that appears to be correct, it may not always be the best choice, and you need to keep looking before selecting your answer. Okay, I know this can be intimidating and at times frustrating. You mean it's not enough that I know the material, I have to be able to determine which answer is best among several right answers? Well, yes, in many cases you do. But don't worry, we're now ready to look at some strategies for dealing with these types of questions. Let's start with a very common pair of qualifiers that appear rather often in the English and reading portions of the test and even occasionally in the science section: except and not. Questions that contain except or not can be treated the same way. In these types of questions, they are telling you that all but one of the answer choices are correct, and your task is to find the one choice that is incorrect. Students really struggle with these types of questions because they run counter to the way we learn. Think about it. No one ever studies all that is wrong or incorrect about a subject. We study what is correct or true. And that's the way to approach these types of questions. In your mind, you need to reframe the question from a negative to a positive. In other words, don't go looking for what is incorrect. Find the answer choices you know to be correct and cross those out. Let's look at an example of this type of question and how we would approach it in the positive. Here's the question. Which of the following is not a U.S. state capital? A, Boston, B, Columbus, C, Denver, D, Miami, E, Phoenix. Now, at some point in their school days, every student memorizes the state capitals, but few memorize a list of cities that aren't state capitals. So in this question, we would reframe it in the positive. Now it would read, which of the following is a state capital? After doing that, we would then cross out or eliminate the cities we know to be state capitals. If we paid attention in 5th grade, then we would know that Boston, Columbus, Denver, and Phoenix are the capitals of Massachusetts, Ohio, Colorado, and Arizona, respectively. And we would be left with one choice, Miami, which of course is not the capital of Florida. Tallahassee is. Okay, this was a simple question and not at all likely to appear on the ACT, but the strategy remains the same. Reframe the question in the positive and eliminate the choices you know to be correct. The one left should be the exception and your best answer. Another common set of qualifiers, which often show up in the English and reading sections, are least, most, or best, as in, which of the following is least likely to, or which of the following best describes. Like questions that contain except or not, These types of questions can confuse students because they imply that there are several correct choices, but in this case, students need to find the choice that is somehow better than the rest. Keep that in mind when you approach these questions. Do not simply look for a correct answer because you may find several of them. When you find 2 or 3 choices that seem correct, stop and ask yourself, what might separate one of these from the rest? For example, why might choice A more effectively conclude the essay than choice B? Or why does choice C express the main idea better than choice D? If you can narrow your choices and then focus on what makes one choice better, or in some cases worse than the others, then you are more likely to see which answer choice is better. For example, when asked to determine which choice more effectively concludes an essay, pause and ask yourself, what should a good concluding sentence do? Should it restate the main ideas and avoid extraneous or insignificant details? Well, of course. So now, with that in mind, see if choice A does that better than choice B. Odds are that will lead you to the best answer. Okay, let's recap some of the key ideas about dealing with qualifiers. First, remember that the ACT asks you to find the best answer and not necessarily the one and only correct answer to each question. Therefore, it is extremely important to examine all the choices before you answer and to use the process of elimination to narrow your choices until you find the one that is best. Second, when dealing with questions that include the words not or except, such as in which of the following is not or all of the following are correct except, you need to reframe the question in your mind from a negative to a positive. Change which of the following is not to which of the following is. Then find the answer choices that are true or correct and cross those out. They're not the right answer. You should be left with one exception, and that is your best answer. And finally, when a question contains words like least, most, or best, remember to focus on what makes one choice better or worse than the others. While all choices may appear correct, one of them stands apart for a particular reason. If you can identify what makes it different, then you will have a better chance of choosing the best answer. If you practice these strategies for dealing with questions that contain qualifiers, you can be sure that you will improve your overall performance on the ACT.